They're related, aren't they? Love of God and love of neighbor. If human beings are created in God's image, then there's some kind of identification. Our identity is wrapped up in our Creator. It's something like your reflection in a mirror, which is wrapped up with you. Break the mirror because you don't like what you see, and that says something not just about the reflection, but about you too. I think that's part of the reason why St. John was able to write, if you do not love the brother that you can see, it cannot be said that you love the God whom you do not see. One is the reflection of the other, albeit imperfectly. Something of the basis for this command is given at the end of our first reading. I am compassionate, the Lord God said. Certainly it's encouragement. Do as I have done, you yourself have benefited from my compassion. But if we're a reflection of the original, if our identity is wrapped up with God who is compassionate, then failing to be compassionate not only harms others, but ourselves. I think that's part of the evil described in our first reading, which returns to the perpetrator. You have wronged widows and orphans. Now your own wives will be widows and your children orphans. Evil has a way of boomeranging. Failing to be compassionate, failing to love creates a distance between who we are objectively, a human being in God's image, and who we're choosing to be. It's an identity crisis at the deepest level, bringing with it all the uncertainty and the anxiety of a psychological breakdown. We're made according to a pattern of love, and cognitive dissonance emerges to the degree our choices don't match this pattern. Now, this affords us a precious glimpse of the logic of God's commandments. They're not arbitrary rules, but the articulation of a way of life in harmony with our constitution, with our makeup, with how we were created. Live according to your God-given nature, the commandments urge, and you'll simply have a better life. They're not about control, but about happiness. Listen again to Jesus. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. In Mark's gospel, Jesus rounds this out with, and with all your might. Heart, soul, mind, might. What does this describe to you? Is there any other power belonging to us that's not captured by these terms? I can't think of one. Then what is Jesus saying? Every power, every capability that you possess finds its completion in love. All we have has been created for a purpose. Harness all your powers, bend them in this way, and you'll fulfill your purpose, the purpose for which you were created. Now, to feel something of the significance of this, sometimes it's easier to recall an experience of the absence of purpose. You know, for me, my mind goes immediately to college days, to an experience in a chemistry lab. I was a chemical engineering major at the time, and I had been given a little job in the lab as an assistant. I was there mixing chemicals, and I remember thinking, this is fine, and feeling something is missing. Very similar to an experience I had just down the street here in Emporia as a grad student at ESU. I was in a class with 20, 25 women and about 2 or 3 other guys, and I thought, well, the odds are pretty good for me here. And yet my mind said something is missing. Something's lacking. We know the feel of purpose, especially when purpose is lacking. Heart, soul, mind, might find their fulfillment in love, which creates the meaning, the fulfillment, the satisfaction for which we deeply long. Love the Lord your God with all your might, mind, soul, and heart. For love makes us like the object loved. It confirms our identity and enables us to be what our country dearly needs us to be. Not partisans, but Christians who love. And yet, if loving was easy or natural for us, then a command to do it would be unnecessary, don't you think? Which brings us here and to our knees, understanding that unless God's love is poured into our hearts, they'll remain hard and unhappy.